And this next video is on how to conduct a Youth Matrix elementary form, the evaluation tool that CAN uses. And so where we're going to go is inside the Clients folder. Alright, you'll notice here that there's actually two different Youth Matrix evaluation forms. There's one specific to elementary school and one to teen. Again, this video is specific to the elementary program. So we're going to go in, create new. We're going to select the site. And this is just a heads up on the different domains that we're looking at in here, and then this is an automatic sum of the Youth Matrix score that starts filling in as you complete sections of this. This added little section here is something if you come across this information, adding in here can be quite helpful as we can adjust the reading literature for the students in your after-school program. And so again, if you have that information, which is typically on the report card, or if you received it from a teacher or some other source, including that information in here is and can be quite helpful. You may also notice that there are occasionally these little question marks. If you hover above them, they can provide some additional insight as to how to answer that specific question or field. So the first section we're going to jump into is academic performance. What you're going to notice here is that there's some sections where you just can't change anything, and then there's some sections that you can. And that's because these over here are automatically going to do some calculations for you. And so what we're going to be doing here is in the report card, you're going to look for specifically the academic portion of the elementary report card. Which is in the format of B's, D's, and S's, or beginner, developing, and secure. And so when you're going through the report card, and let me actually pull one up to give us some context. Just a few more seconds. Okay, let's here we go. So this is a report card for one of the students, and what you'll notice is there's quite a few different sections here. Let me pull out a little bit. There we go. Alright, so what you're going to see here is this learning social behavior portion. For the academic performance, we are not looking at this section. What we're in fact looking at is a little bit further down here. For example, in the writing section, we're going to count up all the B's, D's, and S's that the child has in this area. We're going to not worry about this section for now. And then we're going to go a little bit further. Remember earlier that I had mentioned about if we come across their reading level. Here, for example, is an example of where that information lies. And so for this particular child, they're at a B reading level. So anyways, we're scrolling down here to the mathematics section, and again we see our B's, D's, and S's. And so we're going to continue to add up all those B's, D's, and S's. And looks like we have one more for science. And even though this says SP and I, it's the same kind of setup. So just assume that the S is an S and the P is actually the same as developing and the I is the same as the B or beginner. And so we're going to count up those as well. And so when we're done counting up that information, we're going to go back to our form. And so let's just say we counted up 7 B's, 4 D's, and 2 S's. And what it's automatically doing here is converting it into the 5-point Youth Matrix scale. And so it's converting up that, and then here's our average score on that 5-point scale, which is a 2.23. And then we look on this Likert scale here and look for that 2.23 area. It looks like it's between this one here, so we're going to go ahead and click that, and it gives us our Youth Matrix score. If you do come across the instance where the information is just not available, please indicate why it is not. And so in this particular instance, we just say that we have the information, so we won't put anything, but let's say we didn't have the report card, and so we just say no report card. And if there's any additional notes on academics, so for example, we may have noticed that that the child had a disproportionate amount of B's in the writing portion, and so if there's for example, we notice that there is more of the B's or D's in the writing category versus the mathematics, say maybe notice that the child was struggling more in writing versus math skills. And this may indicate to the staff that reviewed this evaluation that there might be an effort to focus on that writing area to help bolster up that skill set. So then moving down, here we have homework completion. For this one, you're going to notice that there's going to be some kids that just don't actually have that information. And what we have noticed actually is that I believe our K through second graders don't. So in here, for example, is where we would find that, whether or not that they're turning in their assignments or what have you. And so what I'm going to do is open up an example of where that information should be. Here we go. So we're looking at a fifth grader's report card, and here we go. Completes homework. There's the grade. This is in the I, P, and S categorization. And so once we have that information, we would go back to the child's form, and then indicate if it's an I, D, or S, or I, P, and S, whatever type of categorization that they use. So for this particular kid that we were looking at earlier, that data did not exist, and so we'd mark that it does not exist. And we would just make a note that the data does not exist because it doesn't exist for K through second graders. Alright, and then moving on to the next section, school attendance. So what we're going to be doing here is looking at, actually let's pull the other child's record. Up at the top right, we're looking at the fall section right now. Notice that it says half day absent. Ultimately, for every day that a child is absent, they get 2 absences in that type of format. And so what we're going to do is just take that 12, and in the form, just give me a second, the computer's catching up. There we go. Alright, and then it calculates how many full day absences. And so here we see that the total full days is 6, and then we look on our scale here, and then we're going to mark those total full day absences, and then there you go with the Youth Matrix score. And that concludes this domain. And then moving on to behavior, what we're going to do is go back to that learning and social behavior section and counting up all the I's and P's and S's that you might find, or IDs and S's that you might find for the child in that section, and then put it in here. So we're just going to say that there was 6 I's, 3 P's, and 2 S's. It's going to convert the information for us, and here we go. Our total score is 2.27, and we're going to mark it on this conversion scale. Click it right there. And here we have a Youth Matrix score of 2 for this child. So this next one, after school program involvement, this one you're going to have to consult the attendance information that you have for the program. And so here, let's say that, let's see here. Let's say that the child had, during the period of time that we're looking at, 30 times. And here, it's very simple conversion. All we're doing is looking at how many total days that the child, academic days the child attended, and then indicated on this Likert scale here. And so here, this child, let's say, for example, was over 12 days, and so we're going to mark that. and then that child's going to get a Youth Matrix score of 5. This next section is actually part of the interviews and the perceived social support, role of education, and school social inclusion. All three of those sections are in the form of interview questions with the child. And so it's pretty straightforward. When you interview with the child, you're going to ask these questions and just indicate that their response. So I'm just going to fill in some responses in here real quick. Alright, and then once that's done, it tells us how many total points, and then we go to this Likert scale and select where those points are added up to. And then again, it gives us our Youth Matrix score. And then for the next one, here again, interview questions with the child. We're just going to mark some answers in here. Alright, and so again, it's going to calculate the scores for each of these different responses. And so here we see a 1, and we look for the 1, which is over here. And then it gives us our Youth Matrix score. And then to the last one here on school social inclusion, same deal where we put the response that we received from the child, look at the total points from those responses, and indicate that on the Likert scale. And again, that gives us our Youth Matrix score. Oh, there's one more. Perceived parental support. And so this would be, again, self-declared by the child. Let's say Bobby Boberson Sr. is the child's father, and that may be the only person in the household. And then if we just put in the responses that the child made. Alright, and then we see our total points here, and then we mark that on the Likert scale, and again it gives us our Youth Matrix score. This last one here is not actually part of the Youth Matrix, it's tied to a specific funder, and so it's just one last question to ask the child if they have had a problem, if they can identify a trusting adult, yes or no, and if they answer yes, put the person that they had indicated. And then we're going to save our record. Alright, so then when we're at the top again here, it gives us our total Youth Matrix score. Let me correct this because we did come across for that one child example as being listed as a B. I'll say that record again. One of the other things to note about this whole process is that for nearly all of these domains, they have actually been thoroughly tested and have shown statistical significance in influencing or having some type of relationship with academic performance. It is very important. It may seem in some of these circumstances that it's like, why are we asking that question? It's because ultimately these different domains have some known influence on academic performance, and that's ultimately what we're trying to improve. And so if we're seeing kids scoring low in certain categories, it allows us to better target our services based on the needs of that child. And that is it in a nutshell. If you have any more questions, contact Derek Miller at Community Action Network. That's yours truly. And then we can certainly discuss in more detail on the process behind the Youth Matrix. And again, this concludes the video on how to do the Youth Matrix for the elementary students.